What else do you need to calculate to determine how much you have to charge to make a profit?
You have to determine the cost of production.
Excellent. You have to determine your cost of production. Cost of production and cost of delivery. Because if you're manufacturing automobiles and you only calculate the cost of actual production, what about the cost of having the sales representatives and the showrooms, getting the cars transported from your factory to the car dealerships where the customers can go and see them? You have to look very carefully at all of the costs, from the initial product design or concept of the service, all the way through making it, selling it, and delivering it. Discovering profitable ventures. There is no guarantee that even what seems like the best idea will be a success. Maybe you do identify an important gap in the marketplace, and you come up with an invention for a product that will fill that gap. You do all your homework and calculate how many people might be willing to buy, how much they would be willing to buy. You do all your numbers, you do all those things, you put all the effort into launching your business or expanding your business. There is still no guarantee that it will succeed, because maybe it's not the right time. Maybe just as you launch that new product, something changes in the economy, and all of a sudden people no longer have the money to spend on it, or there's some new need that they have to spend on instead. So there's no guarantee that even with your best efforts you will succeed. That's the risk in being an entrepreneur. Minimize that risk so that you're taking a calculated risk. Observation is one of the things that can serve you very, very well as an entrepreneur. You will better understand your market, you'll better understand the needs and the opportunities, and you'll come up with better ideas on how to fill those needs. And once you've come up with those ideas, what do you have to do? Your homework. That's part of that 99% perspiration. There's a reason why I have this picture of this hotel on this summary slide. That's the Marriott Hotel in San Francisco. I live in San Francisco in the United States. Willard Marriott, who has long since died, but is at intersection for 5 days in a row, Monday through Friday, from about 11 o'clock to 2 o'clock, about the time that office workers in Washington, D.C. eat lunch. And he knew that some of them took their lunch to their office, fixed their lunch at home, carried it to their office, ate at their desk. He also knew that many of them went out to local restaurants. He literally counted the number of people who walked past him in one direction and the number of people who walked past on the opposite side of the street. He counted people for 5 days, from 11 to 2, the time that he knew would be his peak selling period, because he wanted to know the potential for his sales if he had his food cart at that particular intersection. He knew that not every person who walked past during that time would necessarily want to buy a lunch. Maybe they were just running to put money in the parking meter for their car, or maybe they were going out to a meeting, maybe they weren't going out to get lunch. But he knew that he wouldn't be able to sell to any more people than the number who walked past on average every day. And he knew that once he had those numbers, he needed to discount them.
My question is that at this point, don't we think of SWOT analysis for a successful venture? SWOT analysis.
The cost analysis?
SWOT analysis.
SWOT analysis. Okay. True, I haven't covered a SWOT analysis yet, but we'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. Okay. At this point, we're really more at the idea of coming up with some ideas and starting to ask the questions. But we will talk a little bit about a SWOT analysis in a few minutes. Any other? Okay, got another question?
I want to find out a situation where you discover an environment for business, like there are not good grounds that you could establish a business. What would be your advice for that? That if you want to discover a venture, right, to discover a venture, then the environment for investment is not enabling. What would be your advice?
Okay, what do you do if you want to do a new invention, but the business environment or the investment environment is not positive or is not what it needs to be for you at this point in time? We're going to talk more about, in fact, we will talk about investment and financing and so forth more later on today.
The success story of Mario. I wonder if you have a standard template of setting up metrics for your business, like counting numbers. Is there a standard way of measuring?
Okay, the question is that I gave the example of J. Willard Marriott standing on the street corner and counting people that walked by, and is there a standard set of measures to check if you're wanting to evaluate a new idea? There is not a highly detailed standard list of things to check. The list that I gave you is a very, very good start. Exactly what you want to check will depend on the type of business, the type of product or service that you want to sell. It will also depend to a certain degree on where you're trying to sell, but it really will vary according to the type of business that you're doing or want to do, and the type of product or service that you're selling. But the list that I gave you that you will have in the handout you get tomorrow, what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and continue on and talk about business models. A business model is simply a fancy name for the way you do business. It's just sort of a fancy name that some university professor somewhere came up with to make a name for himself. Successful business models will answer two questions, two very important questions. What problem does this business solve? I already talked about identifying opportunities, identifying gaps in the marketplace, and then finding a solution to the problem or finding a way to fill that gap, fill that hole. So your first question is, what problem does this business solve, or what gap does this fill? And how does it do so profitably? As a business person, as a for-profit business person, you want to make sure that whatever solution you come up with, whatever product you invent, whatever service you conceive, can be sold profitably. If you can't sell it profitably, then what you should do is go into the nonprofit sector. As an entrepreneur, you're here to make a profit. So you want to make sure that whatever idea you decide to use in your business, that eventually you can make a profit. I'm going to give you some examples now, and as I said earlier this morning, these are examples that largely come from the United States. The first one that I'm going to cover is McDonald's. How many of you are familiar with McDonald's fast food, McDonald's hamburgers? Quite a number of you are. Ray Kroc, one of the entrepreneurs I introduced you to this morning, started McDonald's. I mentioned the socioeconomic changes in the United States. He started McDonald's in the mid-1950s. He recognized that families were more affluent, they had more more disposable income, more extra money that they could spend on luxury goods, on non-necessities. They wanted to do fun things. They wanted to be able to spend the afternoon doing entertaining things. They didn't want to have to spend all of their time doing necessary meal preparation and so what Ray Kroc conceived of was what we now call fast food. The idea of food that is prepared quickly, that can be eaten quickly, can be eaten on the run, as we say. You pick it up and you eat it as you go. And literally in the United States, you see people walking down the street drinking their soft drink or eating their snack. We've gotten pretty casual about that sort of thing. McDonald's does not sell the best hamburgers available in America. I don't go to a McDonald's because I want the juiciest, biggest, most sumptuous hamburger. And if I do, I'm going to be highly disappointed. I don't go to McDonald's for the biggest, fattest French fries. If I do, I'm going to be highly disappointed. But I know if I go to McDonald's, I will get a good hamburger of a certain size with certain condiments available to me. I know that if I get their French fries, I'll get a certain size packet of French fries, and the French fries will be a certain size, and they'll taste a certain way. What I get from McDonald's is not the best quality, but I get good quality. I get it at a reasonable price. I get it consistently. If I go to a McDonald's in New York City, or I go to a McDonald's in Des Moines, Iowa, or I go to a McDonald's in Paris, France, or in Bangkok, Thailand, I know that I will be able to get a certain size and style of hamburger. Communities, there was no power for weeks. Within, I think it was less than 24 hours of the storm hitting, Walmart had its stores real control. They are, in fact, criticized for this pretty widely. Having a highly integrated sales information and distribution system and very aggressive cost control have allowed them to become very, very successful, selling unprecedented volume to unprecedented numbers of North Americans and increasingly other people around the world. Except the screwdriver and my own hard work. And in fact, IKEA models are simple enough and they have everything worked out well enough that it's not even hard work. It's very simple to put together their products. What they have done is that they, just like Michael Dell cutting out the middleman, they have cut out the assembly person. So I'm not paying someone else to put the legs on that table for me, nor am I paying a lot more in freight charges because now this big box has to be delivered from the warehouse to the store, and it takes a lot more room in the truck, and so you put fewer in the truck, and the cost of fuel gets spread over fewer pieces of furniture. And she built her business model around that. The Body Shop, she championed what has become social marketing, the idea of marketing and selling with a conscience, with a social cause. And there's a tremendous amount of testing that has to be done on any skincare products or any cosmetics, makeup, before it can be sold in the United States or be sold in Europe. There is a lot of testing to make sure that the products are safe for human use. But before they start testing them on human beings, they test these ingredients in most cases, they've been testing them first on animals. They do some laboratory tests. If they pass the laboratory tests, they test them on animals. Ingredients are in fact safe. It's not generally a problem for the animals. However, be they mice, be they rats, be they rabbits or dogs, monkeys, whatever the particular animal is that's being used, are in fact injured or become diseased as a result of the testing. And there are many people who believe that that's not right. She could, to avoid doing any animal testing of her company products, finding other methods of doing the necessary testing, and trying to use ingredients that were not being tested on animals, but were being tested appropriately using other means. Buying shea butter from a European middle management practices that she has within her stores and within her company, but it also has to do with human rights. The Body Shop has been selective about where they do business based on human rights records and so forth. And we've been much slower than they have in Europe and in the United Kingdom and other parts of the world to be concerned about these things. The environment, when I drive down the highway in much of West Africa, get concerned about all the plastic bags littering the countryside in West Africa, there could be an opportunity for you to do something unique in the way you do business. Now FedEx Kinko's, and they're my courier, they send back and forth instantly now online, on the internet. McDonald's, their business model was offering speed and convenience, expanding through franchising. Mary Kay Ashley, using a very highly integrated sales information and distribution system and aggressive cost controls to support selling at low price. Michael Dell cut out the middleman by doing his sales online and via telephone. Estee Lauder built trial and sales, repeat sales through experiential marketing, giving people an opportunity to try the product. IKEA kept their costs down by offering do-it-yourself products. The buyers do the final assembly. The Body Shop, conscientious consumption or consuming with a conscience. Kinko's extending my office. eBay, I can name my price. Starbucks, Howard sells me an experience, not just a cup of coffee. And Zara uses speed to market to make their product and their purchase opportunity perishable. Okay, finally, in summary, business models need to identify a problem and offer a solution, a profitable solution. There's a wide variety of successful business models we've seen. As early as she could be and had a couple of shaky years, her business model of selling via the internet was not possible before the internet existed. And last but not least, there are business models out there waiting for you to develop them yourselves. Take these ideas, take other ideas that you see, and adopt them, adapt them, develop new models that are most appropriate for you here in Nigeria or wherever you want to do business. There's an expression, think globally but act locally. I've shown you some global examples. Figure out how to adapt these to your environment and your market, or come up with your own new business models. With that, any questions? If not, let's take a tea break.
Thank you very much, Ms. Margaret. I'm sure we already have our heads full, and it's time to just take a tea break and relax.
Plans. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen in the back. Ladies and gentlemen, when you stop talking and you may say, well, but I'm a small business, why should I bother with a business plan? Where you're going, any road will take you there. Just like these people in the illustration up here, they're sort of driving along, kind of looking everywhere, don't know quite where they're going, and who knows where they'll end up. And I talked a little bit this morning about the importance of setting goals and working to achieve those goals as a small business person. That certainly helps increases your odds of being not just successful, but highly successful as an entrepreneur. To get there, what you need to do to get there, and so that you have something to measure your progress against and to see whether in fact you're on target to meet those goals, and if not, to correct your course a little bit. And you want to get with your business. It helps you determine how to get there. An internal audience and an external audience. Yourself. Your heart, okay? Yourself as the entrepreneur, as the business owner. That's correct. The internal audience is you. The first person for whom you want to develop a business plan so that they can not only evaluate your idea, plan to be able to evaluate the quality of your idea, your business idea, to assess how competent they think you are at managing a business, and then to be able to come back periodically and compare your progress and what you've done to what you said you would do, to make sure that you're either staying on target or that you're correcting your course appropriately so that you will be successful. Improve the chances that you will be able to repay that loan you take. Or you may say, you know, I don't have any idea how to do a business plan. It scares me to think about doing a business plan. I don't know how to do these fancy, complicated things. Relax. A business plan, if you have a huge, highly complex business, will in fact be a very detailed, very complex business plan. But business plans can also be just a couple pages long and be very, very simple and still be very effective. There are 3 things a business plan needs to be to serve you well and to help improve your chances of success as an entrepreneur. They need to be comprehensive. They need to cover all the aspects of your business. They should be simple, and they should be realistic. So remember the 3 letters, CSR, comprehensive, simple, and realistic. And yet, the first month of business, no one even knows that they exist as a company. No one knows about their products or their services. So it's not realistic in most cases for them to sell 5,000 units in the first month that they're open for business. Have estimated sales in your business plan that a banker with years of experience in lending and in business and so forth thinks are not realistic. They either will not give you the loans or they will give you only a much, much, much smaller loan than what you're asking for. So be realistic. It's better to write a simple business plan that's just a couple pages long, but in fact is comprehensive and is realistic than to write nothing at all.
An idea of a business is maybe first of all think of the location of your business. Having find it a suitable location, you also look at the possibility of the kind of the product you want to go into, whether in manufacturing, in sales, and what are the possible avenues of selling your product, or whatever you want to do. Maybe the facilities are available to enable you to carry out such business. Like maybe you want to go into a cold business, cold source business. You look at the facilities such as electricity and etc.
All right. Okay. I put together another acronym for you here. Your business plan should cover several things, and the acronym that I've devised is ECOMMM, and that stands for environment, company, offering, method, marketing, and money. What do we mean by environment? Do I want you to talk about whether there are trees in the park across the street from your store? No. But what I do want you to talk about in your business plan is the general environment in which you are doing business. Are you operating in an environment, a business environment that is highly competitive? Are you operating in a time where the economy is very strong or the economy is very weak, or maybe like it is in the United States right now, it's really uncertain? Offering, that's basically just a fancy word for saying your product or your service. But again, it's good discipline for you to be able to describe concisely, succinctly, in just a few words, what your product or your service is, what opportunity, market opportunity it meets, what need it fills, and how it fills that need. Because there are still other products that people will weigh when thinking about how to spend their money. If I'm thinking about buying a bottle of perfume, I can spend maybe $100 bottle of perfume. With that $100, I can buy a bottle of perfume, or I can spend $100 on a fancy dinner in a restaurant with my best friend. Right? An idea? But in fact, they do the same thing because both put this image of romance and importance and leisure and so forth. When I serve products, some of you may be simply buying goods and reselling them. In either case, you're procuring things, whether you're procuring raw materials that you're going to transform, or whether you're procuring goods that you're going to resell. You do have a procurement function. If you're manufacturing, you also have a production function in your operation. You need to describe which of those you're doing and how you're going to do them in your business plan. You also need to describe how you're going to distribute your goods. If you're manufacturing goods, putting them in a warehouse and then moving them from a warehouse to a retail store, what's your mechanism for doing that? If you're shipping them directly from a retail outlet to individual consumers, like a catalog company might do, how are you going to do that? But you need to also describe your method of distribution. In summary, business plans are a navigational tool. They're like a roadmap to help you run your business successfully. We have internal and external users, yourself, and in particular your financiers. They should be comprehensive, simple, and realistic. They should cover the environment, the company, the product or service, as described by offering, the method of procurement or of manufacturing, the market and marketing, and the money. Any other questions on business plans?
Cash flow. You make mention of how to consider how much comes in and how much goes out. My question is that at a small scale and at a year, what you are advice for how to manage
Okay, the question is, as a small business person, really how do you manage cash flow and how do you determine how much goes in and goes out and are there percentages to use and so forth? There is no easy answer. And there's not one answer that I can give you and say, this is how to do it for small businesses. What I can tell you though is that you do need to sit down and list all of your expenses and list them all for a year, because there are some expenses you only pay once a year or you pay twice a year. Most of your expenses you will have every month, but not all of them. I bought a house a year ago in San Francisco. I pay my mortgage once a month. I pay my electricity once a month. I pay my gas and my water once a month and my telephone. But I pay my real estate taxes twice a year. I only pay those every 6 months. So when I do my own personal cash flow to make sure I always have enough money in the bank at the right times, 2 months out of the year, I have this extra payment that I have to make of real estate taxes. It's the same with your small business. There will be business licenses, there will be business taxes, there will be other business expenses that you only pay periodically.
My question is this. Our comment for workshop here is to move our country forward. And now, we know, I don't know how much somebody will acquire before we list company. And I don't know how much somebody will have before acquiring small scale industry. This is my question.
What is your question?
I want to know how much somebody will have before we create company.
In that question. Okay, if I could have, ladies and gentlemen, was how much money will you have or do you have before you start a small business or before you expand a business? It all depends on you. It is up to each and every one of you as individuals with your own business and your own discipline how much money you will have before you launch or you expand your small business. There is not one answer that's common for all of you. If you're very disciplined, very frugal in your business expenses and your personal expenses, and you save very carefully, you'll have more money than someone else who is not so frugal. I talked about Walmart and said that one of the pillars of their success as a company is very aggressive cost control. They are very frugal about their expenses. They don't spend money needlessly. You don't walk into a Walmart and see fancy display fixtures and fancy signs and fancy merchandise displays. You see bare bones, really simple display fixtures, really simple shelving, really simple, very ordinary looking signs, and you don't see fancy displays of merchandise. They don't spend money on things that they don't have to spend money on so that they can charge low prices and get you and me to come in and buy the products we want at Walmart instead of spending more money at the store next door or the store down the road. Build it up more. Any other questions on business plans?
According to your explanation, I understand that break-even point is where the money invested is same to the money that you have gotten. So, is it advisable to still remain in business when you are at the break-even point for over a year? That's question one. The other one is
your revenue, and is it advisable to stay in business if you remain at break-even point for a year? First of all, break-even is where your expenses equal your revenues. Not necessarily your investment, but where your expenses equal your revenues. Is it advisable to stay in business for a long time at break-even? There are companies good companies, that will stay in business operating at a loss for a significant period of time if they believe with sound business judgment that the potential is there in their chosen industry for their chosen products or services in their chosen market, and that the long-term rewards outweigh the short-term loss. That's a business decision that only you and your business partners, your investors, can make. Because for each one of you, it will be different. I might be willing and able to stay in business at a loss for 2 years if I think that for 20 years after that, I can make a very substantial profit. You may say the longest I can stay in business at a loss is 6 months. That's to live with uncertainty, to operate at a loss, to take risks. It depends. It's a question that each of you have to answer individually. And yes, maybe I'm a fashion designer and I think wow, you know, I can imagine this beautiful orange dress with long flowing sleeves and a long hem and a full skirt and so on and so forth. And then I start making some sketches, and then I get some orange fabric that's similar to what I imagine it being made out of, and I make a sort of a test sample. And then I make some adjustments to the pattern, and I make a final pattern, and then I make a real sample. Ultimately, I have a finished product, but I started first with just that idea, that picture in my mind of an orange dress with long flowing sleeves and a long full skirt and so forth. Every product or every idea starts, every product or every service starts with an idea in your mind that then you develop more and more fully. You think about really how do you want that product or service to look? How do you want it to feel? How much do you want it to cost? How much do you think somebody might pay for
I
it?
ask a question. I'm not sure whether you're a banker, but I will ask. Why is it that the bankers find it very difficult, especially when a company is in the situation of it has a cash flow problem? They are not willing to assist in giving them loans.
I'm not a banker per se, but the question is, why is it that when a company is has a cash flow problem that a bank's not always willing to help out? Well, how many of you think a bank exists just because you may want to get money from them and their sole responsibility in life is to provide you a loan? Raise their hand, because a bank, just like you, is in business to make money. A bank has no responsibility to make a loan to you or to any other business or to any individual. A bank has a responsibility to make sound business decisions that will enable it to be profitable year after year after year, so it too can stay in business and make money for its owners. That's the bank's responsibility. The bank happens to offer products and services that fill a need that you as a business person have. That doesn't mean that the bank has to sell its products or services to you. They may have a different target market. Their target market may be companies that have 50,000 employees and above that, or have revenues of $3 million or above, or their target market may be companies that want and need loans of $500,000 and above, or the in that case, that particular bank is not the right bank for you. You want to find a bank that does smaller loans. So part of the question is that, or part of the answer to the question is that the bank's unwillingness to loan you money when you're having cash flow problems may be that it's not in their interest and that you're not part of their target market to bail you out. Now, a loan shark will, and we'll talk about loan sharks in a minute, but a bank doesn't want to wait until you are in financial trouble. They, like any other good business, has to minimize their risk. Maybe more interesting to you right now. How many of you are getting hungry? I see a couple hands. Maybe we should wait for a couple hours and keep talking? Yes? Or would you like lunch? Go ahead. Okay, we'll go ahead and go through one more section and then we'll have a lunch break. Okay, a few basics about money. 5 out of the top 12 reasons small businesses fail are directly related to money. Okay, what do you have to do to make a profit? Do you buy high and sell low? Do you sell at less than you pay? No. If anybody thinks that you do, we need to have a discussion. But no, one of the fundamentals of business and making a profit is you buy low and you sell high. You sell it higher than it costs you to buy or make whatever it is you're selling. Control costs. Walmart has the Sam Walton family has made an absolute fortune by controlling costs. The only way that you will be successful as a business is if you also control your costs. The more you control your costs, the greater likelihood of success you have and the greater levels of success you can achieve. And finally, deliver the goods. Why in the world would I tell you that part of making money is delivering the goods and that that's a key component? Anybody want to guess? Make. Why in the world would I want to talk about mistakes? Because time and again, in small businesses I have worked with, not just in Africa, but particularly in West Africa, I have seen things repeatedly over and over and over again where business people are shooting themselves in the foot. And instead of increasing their odds of success, are actually decreasing their odds. Some of the most common mistakes in small businesses, and we do these things in the United States as well. We're not any better or any worse than anybody else is. We do some of these same things. One of the most common is what we call undercapitalization. That's a fancy word for saying you don't have enough money in your business. You don't have enough cash on hand. That is one of the top mistakes in small business, whether you're launching your business or you're trying to keep it going or expand it. Forgetting the hidden and infrequent costs. I mentioned to you that when I bought my house in San Francisco that only twice a year do I pay my taxes, my real estate taxes. But boy, I can tell you that 2 times a year when I pay those taxes, I pay a lot of money. And it's more money than I usually plan to have on hand if I'm just looking at 1 month's income. If I don't plan ahead and save a little bit of money each month, at the end of that 6 months when that tax bill is due, I would be in trouble. This is a really risky, dangerous thing to do. Please do not mix your business money with your personal money. The one exception is that when you are investing in your business, you are going to have to invest your personal money into the business, and the banker is going to expect you, when you go for a loan, to have personal money invested in your business. That is different than taking business money out just to use for personal reasons. It's appropriate to pay yourself a salary, or to pay yourself dividends, or pay yourself profit. But you want to do that in a very deliberate, very planned way, not simply because it's 3 o'clock and you're hungry and you want some rice and sauce and your pocket happens to be empty this afternoon, but there's money in the cash box. Lastly, failure to invest in marketing and sales. And I see quite commonly in small businesses, and again, particularly in this part of the world, where people think that if they produce something and they just put it out there, that by magic, everybody will know that their company exists, that their product exists, where they can buy it, and will instantly